Hello, everyone. Thank you for waiting. Welcome back to another Crypto.com live video Ask Me Anything. I'm your host, Marina Taylor, and today we will be joined by Josh Goodbody, the COO of Qredo. Qredo works at the cutting edge of cybersecurity and blockchain. They utilize the latest innovations in cryptography and distributed ledger technology to deliver a powerful global network for securing and trading digital assets. They are on a mission to build a decentralized infrastructure for pioneers and visionaries, creating an open network that works for everybody. Everybody, please give a warm welcome to Qredo's Chief Operating Officer, Josh Goodbody.
Thanks for having me, Marina. It's really great to be here, and thanks to everyone for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for making the time. How's it going?
Yeah, really well, really well. We've had a really busy start to the year, hot off the heels of fundraising announcements that we had out in January. So yeah, we are all systems go. So certainly can't complain.
Yeah, congratulations. I know it's maybe old news now in the crypto news cycle, but I know you guys finished up your Series A round, so congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's one of those things that when you look back on, you realize, wow, this was an amazing achievement. But now we've got so much to do and so much to build. So we haven't even internally had time to celebrate or pat ourselves on the back. We're just too busy building.
Yeah. Well, before we get too deep into everything, could you start us off with a quick intro to yourself?
Yeah, happy to. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at Qredo. My background is originally in traditional finance. I've spent most of my career as a financial markets lawyer. I've worked in different derivatives and commodities trading firms, primarily specializing in derivatives, commodities, financial markets, mainly on the sell side. But I've been in crypto since 2017, where I joined Goodbody Global as their global general counsel. Then I joined the Binance group to lead the European region. So I've really been very in deep in the crypto space since 2017, and haven't really looked back. And I've been with Qredo since February last year.
Wow. So was there an aha moment when you were in traditional finance and decided to make the switch, or was it gradual change?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you look at traditional finance and there is innovation. Of course, there's innovation, and things do get more efficient, and technology does scale, and financial markets do get better. But the scale of innovation is much slower, much less transformative for various reasons. Traditional finance in its current form has been around for a long time. We're just slowly digitizing banking in an efficient way in some of the largest markets. So the markets themselves are way behind that. And for me, when I was in the commodities space, I was actually at a fintech company working on trying to drag the commodities markets into the 21st century. So how could you put trading activity on the blockchain? How could you prove the supply chain of gold? How could you show that it's been sourced ethically throughout the entirety of the gold supply chain? Things like that, using blockchain to try and solve some of these key problems that the commodities markets were facing at the time, and seeing the practical use cases for blockchain technology in commodities made it quite clear that not only is blockchain technology going to be hugely transformative for the overall financial markets, it's going to be very disruptive. And so for me, having dabbled in it from a traditional markets perspective, it was very clear that getting more and more involved in it was definitely the place to be. And that's why in 2017, I decided to jump headfirst and go down the rabbit hole. And I certainly haven't poked my head up ever since.
Yes, it does seem to be quite a trend of people making the jump over from traditional to DeFi, myself included, but not in the exchange space, more marketing side. Okay, we've got a ton of questions from our community, which we've gathered. So I want to get right into them. We're going to be showing the questions on screen as well. So the first one is from a user on Twitter. Their question is, if you have to explain Qredo in layman's terms, how would you do that?
That's a good question. So we always get asked this question by people. Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. And it's really difficult because Qredo is inherently quite complicated. So I'm going to do my best to answer this as if someone was a layperson. But excuse me if I do get a little bit technical. But, in a nutshell, Qredo is a provider of fully distributed infrastructure for the custody and settlement of digital assets. So we really believe that Qredo is the most secure digital custody solution on the market. And that's because we've taken this completely radical approach to the business of custody. And the whole aim of what we've done is to remove vendor risks and all these single points of failure that exist in the industry today by putting custody onto this layer 2 blockchain. And that blockchain is called the Qredo chain. It acts as our asset tracking and our ownership ledger. And this distributed architecture, a blockchain, which is the backbone of our custody application, has been paired with the next generation of multi-party computation. We call this decentralized MPC, or DMPC, which is this wonderful cryptographic security technology that operates on a network of nodes. So by using a blockchain, not a centralized database as the asset tracking tool, by using a network to host our MPC protocol, not a centralized vendor solution, we've created this trustless digital asset custody and settlement layer. And that really is what we've built and have today at the Qredo network. And from this infrastructure, you can securely hold, you can move and deploy your digital assets with absolute flexibility. It can be in the centralized space, you can move them to an exchange, you can deploy them out into DeFi. And although it was built for institutions, we've made it available to everyone.
Wow. A little bit more advanced than the layman, but I appreciate you trying to simplify it a bit. Can you tell us, where did the name Qredo come from?
All right, this is totally not going to be layman compatible, but Qredo stands for quantum resistant encryption decryption operations. So try saying that one after you've had a few beers. And you know, I will admit it's pretty low level geeky stuff. Our founders are very much kind of veterans from the technology space, and they wanted to keep it real. So this is a pretty geeky name behind the scenes, but most people just, you know, read Qredo and think it's a fancy brand name that we've created, but there is a bit of method behind the madness of the name. And one of the funny things about Qredo is, you know, everybody pronounces it in a different way. Every country you go to, there's a different pronunciation of it. So sometimes we do look back and go, why did we pick such a complicated name? But there is a reason. It has a meaning. And, you know, for us, you know, building a quantum resistant blockchain that, you know, encompasses all of the latest technology in zero knowledge proofs and security and privacy first technology is really the reason that we've built Qredo. So now you know the name.
Thank you. Yes, definitely a tricky one to say. You got into this briefly with the layman's term definition, but what is the problem that Qredo is solving?
Yeah. So Qredo solves several problems in the digital asset space. And I think it's helpful to think of Qredo like a piece of infrastructure that people can use, like any other blockchain. So you can use it through our web-based application that we ourselves have built and provided, Qredo.network, or you can build on top of it like any other blockchain, Ethereum, Solana, etc. But at its core, what we're showcasing is the power of decentralized custody. Decentralized custody hasn't really existed to date. And one of the key reasons it hasn't is because people think that making something decentralized inherently makes it more complicated. But we've built this decentralized custodial application that enables people to hold their assets in a self-custodial way that's as easy to use as a centralized wallet or a centralized custody solution, but without all of the risks that come with that, handing over your private keys to someone else, hoping that they're going to make sure that they have done their internal security infrastructure in a way that preserves your assets, stripping out all the risks and complexity. And security, I think, has been one of those key things in the space that has really held us back. Every time there's a hack, every time there's a vulnerability of whatever shade, people coming into the market get scared. It freaks them out, whether they're institutional investors, whether they're retail users, and it just keeps holding us back. And to be fair, this is a new space. This is emerging technology. There has to be an element of things breaking before we get it right. But hacks are damaging for people because they're losing their money. They're losing their hard-earned funds. So for us, fixing the security problem or the security dilemma is a key mission that we're on. And so trying to remove the prevalence of hackings and vulnerabilities that exist in the industry. And we do that by giving users a much more secure way to hold their assets. And we enable them to do that with a two-factor authentication device, which is a mobile signing device. So not only do you have this secure platform to hold your assets, you've also got this mobile signing device that acts as this two-factor authentication. So really trying to make this whole business of holding your assets as secure as humanly possible. But one of the things that is really odd about custody and the way that custody is developed in crypto is, to make custody more and more secure, the hypothesis has been make it less and less accessible. Lock it up in this USB, hide that in a safe, lock that up in this cold storage bunker under a mountain somewhere. And if you think about that, that strips out the whole utility of this wonderful programmable electronic asset that we've created. So we've paired custody with a layer 2 settlement network. And we've done that because we want assets to be able to be stored securely, but also moved securely. And that layer 2 settlement network that we have built, called the Qredo network, is completely asset agnostic. You can move cryptocurrencies across it, you can move NFTs, all of that stays within the Qredo network, which preserves the privacy and the security of the asset that's moving. So I guess this adds up to this really powerful toolkit that institutions and enterprises can use to enter the digital asset markets. And what we've done that's quite different is we've made this technology available to everyone. So even retail users can hold their assets and benefit from all of this security because it's completely open source and available to everyone.
Well, that leads directly to my next question, which is Qredo for the everyday crypto investor, or is this something for, institutional investors?
Yeah, I think it's for everyone in the sense that we have built it to be accessible for everyone. We have tried to preserve the spirit and ethos of open source, open networks, and we have made this technology available to everyone. And the core code and even the MPC protocol that we have built, that's a core component within the security architecture, has been pledged to an open source foundation. So it will be available to everyone in perpetuity. And the current product as it stands today is probably easier for an institution to use because we've built it with all these bells and whistles that they're looking for, like multi-governance, getting lots of people involved as approvers, transaction records, all these things that retail users or individuals don't necessarily think about day in, day out. But the fact is that it's open and available for everyone. So if you're active in the crypto space, you're looking for an alternative to a web-based wallet, a web browser-based wallet, or you're looking for an alternative to holding all your Bitcoin on your hardware security device, this is a good option for you. And not only that, but you also get to have a stake in the overall development of the network and the utility of the network by holding the utility token called the Qredo token, which is at the core of everything that we do in the Qredo network. So regardless of who you are, if you're a retail user, you're an institution, you're one of our enterprise users, you have the same ability to use the same services, get your hands on the same utility tokens as everybody else. So we've tried to level the playing field a bit by making the whole thing as accessible as possible.
Yeah, that's amazing to democratize something geared towards more institutional, but for everybody. I love that. I'm hoping now we can kind of define some more elements of the Qredo network. I'm wondering if you can start with MPC. You broke it down earlier, but specifically MPCs.
Yeah, I think this is something that is actually really, really important, because if you look at the space today, the way that this whole market has evolved is institutions have started using infrastructure that was originally built for retail users. So, a great example of that are hardware devices like a Ledger or a Trezor, or multi-sig solutions. And we've seen multiple hacks of these kind of custodial solutions. And we've learned a lot of lessons as an industry, and we as a company, Qredo, and as a protocol have learned those lessons. And we believe that multi-party computation is really this gold standard in cryptographic security. So multi-party computation enables multiple parties that each hold a bit of information or private data to evaluate a computation without ever revealing any of the private data that they've held. So you can all have this private data that enables you to compute something and determine whether that's been computed correctly without ever revealing that piece of information that you yourself hold. And that technology has been around since the 1980s, multi-party computation. But even though that sounds like a fair while ago, this is actually relatively new and breakthrough technology. And MPC has only really been applied at scale in the crypto market since 2010. And in its application to crypto, it's emerged as this gold standard in security. But I think it's quite important to say that not all MPC is the same. Our MPC is very different to what's out there in the market today. So although MPC, an already difficult and complex solution to get your head around, within MPC, there are various shades and colors.
Got it. Following up on that, we had a question from a Twitter user at Sayuri who asks about how MPC is implemented using a threshold signature scheme. Can you please explain further, how does MPC and TSS work together?
Crikey. Okay, we're getting into the geeky stuff here, definitely. Okay, so let me step back a second. How do you benefit as a user from MPC? So with MPC, when it's applied to crypto, what that means in practice is an MPC protocol enables private keys to be broken up into shares or secrets that are encrypted and divided across multiple parties. And in our case, those multiple parties are nodes on our network. So these nodes are independently computing their part of the private key secrets in order to produce a signature without ever revealing the data as well as the encryption to the other parties. And so what this means in practice is there's never a time when the private key is in one place. So it removes private key risks as a day-to-day operational burden that users have to worry about, securing this thing on a piece of paper in a safe, or engraving it onto your crypto steel, or whatever it might be that you're doing to secure your private keys. You can cease to worry about that through MPC. And we distribute that cryptographic information across this independent blockchain network, which operates on the Qredo chain, so the Qredo network. And that strips out this whole single point of failure that is the private key. So you don't need to do these cumbersome kind of offline storage, air gapping, cumbersome multi-sig signing processes that are expensive and operationally difficult to do. And in the version of MPC that we have implemented, we call it decentralized MPC, but it leverages something called threshold signature schemes. And in a nutshell, threshold signature schemes are a special type of secure multi-party computation. And this scheme splits the private keys into multiple secrets, which I've just outlined earlier. And in practice, what this means is you can have really complex custodial policies with various rules-based activities that really give users complete and unlimited flexibility over how their assets are held and deployed. So you can have as many approvers as you want, so infinite amounts of approvers. If you're a large operation, if you're a large investment bank, you may have 7 people involved in the approval, and those 7 people sit within clusters of 3. So you can have clusters of 3 approvers, of which 7 of those need to approve for a transaction to go through. Or you can strip it down to its core basics and have a one-of-one approval process, because you are your own approver. You're a one-man or one-person DeFi shop. You just want to be deploying your assets effectively and quickly out into DeFi. So it gives people endless flexibility and security, and it's all underpinned via MPC.
Got it. And what is then a watcher?
A watcher. Okay, so someone's been reading our white paper, I think. A watcher is a core component within the Qredo network. A watcher is a piece of software that sits within our validator nodes. And what a watcher does is it provides this trustless monitoring mechanism within the validator network. And really, essentially, it acts as this smart router between MPC clusters, the Qredo blockchain, and the layer 1 nodes that we operate, validating the veracity of the operations taking place, making sure that what is happening observes the right mechanisms and protocols, that nothing has happened that is undue or shouldn't have happened or falls outside of the parameters of the code that's been written. The watcher is this trustless monitoring mechanism that we have, and it's a component within the validator stack.
Thank you. I'm going to zoom out a little bit to look at kind of the overall architecture, the network, the layers, if you will. We have a question from a Twitter user. The Qredo network consists of 3 layers. Could you explain what is the function of each of these layers?
Yeah. So when you think of how the Qredo network operates, it's definitely fair to say that there are these 3 layers that are all symbiotic. They form one large part together. And let's start with the first layer. And these are the layer 1 and layer 2s that are integrated into the Qredo network. So for you to be able to hold an asset in your Qredo wallet, what we will have done prior to that, and what the protocol will have done, is integrated or interface with the underlying layer 1. So let's say, imagine that's Bitcoin or Ethereum. We will have found a way, either via running a validator node in the case of, for example, Ethereum, to be able to write transactions to that layer 1 blockchain. So these are blockchains that we've integrated with. And this is the first layer of the 3 layers. The second layer is the Qredo network. And the Qredo network is underpinned by the Qredo chain, which is our layer 2 blockchain that's built using a fork of the 10-bit protocol, which is a very well-known, tried and tested protocol. And what the Qredo chain does is it acts as the asset tracking and ownership ledger. So every time you deposit an asset into your wallet, it looks and feels like any other wallet that you're depositing into. The Qredo chain records that. It says that, for example, you have X amount of Bitcoin, you've deposited that into a wallet, you own that Bitcoin, and you have the ownership rights to that Bitcoin. And then what that enables users to do is then move the ownership rights on our layer 2 blockchain across the network to other users without ever having to move it on the layer 1. So if you've deposited Bitcoin into a Qredo wallet, you have those ownership rights. You're then able to say to someone else on the network, I'm going to transfer you my Bitcoin. But without it moving on the Bitcoin blockchain, the ownership rights to that Bitcoin moves instantly across the Qredo network to the recipient, that then is able to take that Bitcoin because they now own it. And that is an entry that's written into the Qredo blockchain. So we have immutable blockchain-based ownership rights for all assets held in the Qredo network. The third layer on top of all of this is a messaging layer. And we've built this messaging layer to strip out the bulk that comes with a number of blockchains out there. So all of this intense computation that needs to happen at the blockchain level has been stripped out from a messaging perspective and put into this decentralized messaging protocol that we use, which is the messaging protocol for some of the dApps that are being built on the network today. So for example, for some of our institutional users, they need to follow a rule called the travel rule, which is essentially an information sharing protocol between virtual asset service providers, exchanges, brokerages. And we do that across this decentralized privacy preserving layer 3, which is our messaging layer. So together there are these 3 layers that form part of the overall Qredo network.
Got it. Yeah, that's really cool. I think the messaging layer especially is something you don't hear about as often. We had a question from a Twitter user. What is the role and advantages of the messaging network?
Yeah, so I'm not going to call any blockchains out, but there are numerous blockchains out there that are very large and very successful that have scalability issues. And there are various reasons for that. It could be the way their consensus mechanism works. It could be the underlying protocol they operate means that they can't scale over a certain size of validators, or they also congest their blockchain by transmitting metadata. And so data that is separate to the movement of those assets, but contains some kind of information. That metadata doesn't necessarily have to be transferred on the underlying blockchain, in our opinion. So what we've created is this messaging layer that enables metadata of any kind, transaction-based metadata, so you're negotiating a trade, user metadata, so you're sending a transaction, but you want to include a reference as to what this payment is for. Raw data, you might be able to build a proprietary application that means you need to transmit certain data with transactions. A good example of that is the travel rule solution that we're building, where you transmit information about that transaction to the recipient. Why should that sit in the underlying blockchain? It can sit outside of the blockchain. So we've built this messaging network on something called the Matrix protocol, which is this decentralized messaging protocol. It's an open source protocol with a number of implementations and a really, really large developer community. The underlying security for the Matrix protocol has been battle tested by the UK and French governments. They use it for their secure intergovernmental communication protocols. It's been adopted by a number of global defense consortiums. So we know that this technology is best in class. And what it enables us to do is build really powerful applications on top of a blockchain without congesting the underlying blockchain itself. So I'll give you an example of that. One of the things that we're exploring with some of our institutional clients is a trading application that enables you to negotiate trades and settle them instantly across a layer 2. That doesn't have to be settled instantly, but doing it on layer 2 means you can have instant settlement of trades without any counterparty risk. So you can only trade what you have in your wallets at that time. So think of this messaging layer as the initial building block for something like the next generation Bloomberg terminal. So a trading application for crypto assets that leverages a blockchain, but moves the metadata on a much more efficient layer 3 messaging network.
Wow, yeah. Amazing use cases, and it's cool to see that it's being adopted already. I want to pivot a bit to talk about the token, QRDO. We have a question from a Twitter user. What are the long-term sustainable value drivers for the Qredo token?
Yeah, so the Qredo token is designed to fuel really this engine of rapid growth and adoption within the Qredo network. And we do this through a number of mechanisms. The Qredo token is part of this incentive program where certain actors that provide value are rewarded in Qredo tokens. So there's this incentive mechanism built to incentivize usage of the Qredo network. But unlike layer 1 tokens or layer 1 blockchains that only really reward the validators for securing the network, the Qredo token benefits all actors within the Qredo network. So if you're providing liquidity on some of the upcoming dApps that we're launching this year, you will get a reward in Qredo tokens. So really it's a bit of fuel within the Qredo network. But in addition to that, it holds a key role in the upcoming governance of the Qredo network. We are transitioning into a more decentralized model where third-party validators come on board the network, where further development of the Qredo protocol is community-led, and having Qredo tokens enables you to participate in this community-led governance that we're going to be launching. So it will be intrinsically linked to the growth of the network. It is a core component within the governance of the overall network, but we're also building out the core utility that the Qredo token has. So a few things that are new this year we're going to be implementing. Firstly, being able to use your Qredo token as a means of paying your transaction fees. And those transaction fees will be collected in Qredo tokens, and there will be this recurring utility that there will be demand for Qredo tokens in the secondary market. So that utility is a core part of what we want to build out. But it's also a stakeable asset. So you can stake your Qredo tokens to Qredo validators and, of course, generate staking yield from that activity. So today, if you're staking your Qredo tokens on the Qredo network, stakers are generating 20.2% APY on their staked Qredo tokens. So it has staking utility as well. So there's a number of collective incentives as well as utility mechanisms that mean that the Qredo token is always going to be at the very heart of what we're doing at the Qredo network.
Very cool. Are there any plans for a token burn in the future? Asks the Twitter user. Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Without getting myself into trouble here, the short answer is yes. There is a deflationary mechanism that we are building right now, which is going to be launched in the next couple of weeks, which will be very deflationary in its operations. And the reason for that is we've been out here in the wild for 6 months. We've gathered a huge amount of feedback in that time. We're still an early stage project in that respect. But in gathering that feedback, we've determined what factors can make a project successful. And by having an element of a burn linked to overall usage, we think that that can be quite a powerful additional quality that the Qredo network and Qredo tokens have. So lots of questions about this. we are launching something quite interesting in the coming weeks. All I'm going to say is it's coming up to the spring equinox. The spring equinox is usually this time in different cultures where things get burnt. You know, you had that in ancient Egypt. You had that with the pagans in Europe, burning things at the spring equinox. So we're going to be doing our own spring equinox celebration with a bit of a Qredo flavor. That's all I'm going to say.
Exciting, something to look forward to. Okay, we briefly touched on this with the last section, which is about the path to decentralization. Where are you guys at with that now?
Great question. We're very much on the path towards quite rapid decentralization of the underlying Qredo network. And the plan that we have in Q2 is to bring on board the first validators onto the Qredo network. Now, we currently operate the first set of validators alongside some partner investors that we have. We're going to be bringing on board the first set of third-party validators onto the network in Q2. And the reason we're doing this in a slow and steady iteration is because if you think of the whole reason for existence for the Qredo network is to safely and securely store and hold digital assets. So everything we do is extremely slow and methodical because we are securing billions of dollars of value on the Qredo network. So by launching the validator program, we're further decentralizing the composition of the Qredo network. And as it decentralizes and has more and more third parties operating key bits of the validator network, we believe that decentralization increases the overall robustness of the network. So it becomes less and less prone to single points of failure, less and less dependent on, for example, us as service providers and participants within the Qredo network. So first step is onboarding the first third-party validators in Q2 this year. If that all goes successfully, which we expect and believe it will, then in Q3 and Q4 onwards, we're going to be opening this up to be a permissionless validator program where people can, with the right stake and the right hardware and software capabilities, be able to operate and run their own validator nodes. That's really the first step in decentralizing the fundamental architecture of the network.
Got it. And related to this, we have a question about trust as you guys make your way towards this decentralized future. How will you make sure that no one on the team manipulates the system? Was the question specifically about, sorry, let me reread the full question. MPC nodes stored in Qredo V1 are also team controlled. So his question is, how will you make sure that the teams do not manipulate the system?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think as a starting point, we've got a world-class security function that ensures that the nodes that we operate ourselves are done so in the right way. We've cut no corners. We're a team of over 100 highly tech-savvy individuals, many of whom are cryptographers and systems engineers that are all focused on one thing, the integrity and good operations of the Qredo network. So the nodes that we ourselves operate are under various elements of control within different teams. So there is no one overall individual or team that can do things to nodes. But the fundamental fact is we have over 36 nodes distributed in various geographical locations globally. So even if you were able to hypothetically compromise one of those nodes, that would have no overall impact on the network itself. You would have to, in tandem, in all of the 6 or 7 geographical locations, compromise all of the MPC nodes in parallel, which would mean mathematically it'd be extremely difficult for you to do. Now, to be able to game these things out, we have, as any good technology company should, we have red and blue teams internally. So if you think of the red team like the offensive team, the blue team like the defensive team, constantly ensuring that we're on our guard with the right systems and controls in place to ensure that even in a worst case scenario, if you have one bad actor or a collection of bad actors, they're not able to do any material harm to the overall network. So we're all eyes focused on this. It's really the core day-to-day bread and butter of what our team are working on, focusing on, because security is our key USP. So for us, it's a really important question. The job is never done. It's something that continues to be iterated and improved, but it is something that we are super focused on.
Amazing. Yeah. Great answer. I have a lot of confidence in that. I want to move to talk about kind of the community building and expanding of the network. We've got a question from Twitter user, will Qredo offer some kind of grant program for developers so they can build on and expand the Qredo network?
Yeah, completely. Community has been one of the secrets to success that we've had. We've been able to build a really engaged global community that have gone off and built their own communities. So by that I mean, if you look on Telegram, there are multiple language groups with thousands of people in them, in even some obscure languages in some places that we were very surprised to see. So the community's kind of self-organized itself, and we've got an amazing set of what we call Qredonians, so kind of community ambassadors that go out there and bang the drum for us and help curate communities. So community is the core of everything that we're trying to build towards. Now, part of that is also going to be a development of a developer-focused community. So right now we focused on the overall community. As we open up key bits of our infrastructure and make it, for example, open source and an open platform, you can pick up the core code and develop it. We are going to be launching a grant program for developers. The first time we ever did that was last year in Latin America. We actually hosted what's called the Bitcoin Bankathon in El Salvador to celebrate El Salvador's Bitcoinization, where we had folks from all over Latin America, virtually and in person, attend a hackathon where they were building all kinds of different use cases around the themes of financial inclusion, around financial empowerment for more vulnerable groups in Latin America, building tools and services on the Qredo network. And we incentivized that by giving that hackathon a pretty sizable grant. That was the first test case for us to see how well we are built to be able to support hackathons and people that get endowments, for example, to build stuff on the Qredo network. We're going to be doing much more of that. A formal grant program is coming where people will be able to apply based on certain criteria and be given a grant or a support endowment to be able to get them building on the network with our support. We're going to help incubate projects as well. That's a core part of one of the things that we're building internally, which is kind of an incubation studio where we enable people to give us an idea. And then if we think that idea has legs and we're confident that we can add value, we will help co-incubate that with them and give them whatever support that they need. So we're going to be pivoting our focus not just away from the initial community that we've built, but towards building a developer-focused community as well. So that's going to be a core part of the focus that we'll have from Q2 onwards.
Exciting. I love that. Qredonians. That's catchy. You briefly explained the team background. It seems quite varied. I'm wondering, for anyone who's interested, is the team expanding? Are there any open positions that people might be able to look into?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now we are over 100 really passionate builders of different backgrounds. You've got folks with really, really hard commercial and operational experience from some of the largest spaces in crypto. You've got cryptographic wizards and brilliant engineers doing all kinds of amazing building internally. We're hiring across the board. We've got, I think, over 40 roles open at the moment. We're a remote first company, so you're able to apply regardless of where you're based. I can certainly say there's a role for anyone here. If you're passionate about crypto, you've got some kind of expertise in a relevant area. It could be marketing, community management, development, engineering, whatever it may be. I'm sure there's a role for you here. And we have advertised all of those roles on our careers website. So if you go to qredo.com/careers, you can see a list of all of the open positions that we have today. We are hiring rapidly globally. And if you like working remotely, if you think that that's something that you're good at as well, Qredo is definitely the kind of place that you could fit in at.
Exciting. And for those who are not developers and maybe not interested in working in this space, where can they go to get more involved into the community?
Yeah, we try and be as community accessible as we possibly can. What that means in practice is we are all in, the team are all in, for example, our Telegram channel, which is at Qredo Network. You'll also find us on Twitter at Qredo Network as well. We are very active in both of those spaces. We host AMAs regularly, great example of this is the one that we're doing today. If you want to just learn more, if you want to find out ways to get involved, if you want to join potentially our community, we are launching our next season of what's called the Creed. The Creed is, I guess, a bit of a name that we use for one of our seasons of community building. So the Creed Season 2 launched last week, so that's now live. So we're looking for new people to join the community and act as ambassadors within the network. We're also going to be hosting a bit of an after AMA / after party in our Telegram group. So if you're not in the Telegram group, do join it. I think the community team are warming everybody up right now in the Qredo official group. So you can find us at Qredo Network on Telegram. So if you're not in there, do join us and do get involved. We're going to have some interesting kind of giveaways and prizes after this.
Sounds fun. Yeah, well, time kind of flew by, and I'm going to wrap up the AMA questions here. Thank you so much, Josh, for taking the time and really expanding on the answers. Before we say goodbye, though, do you have anything else you want to share with the community?
Thank you for having us. We definitely love to come back. We're building some cool stuff with crypto.com, so we're really excited to be collaborating with you. Thanks to the community for joining us today. If you ever want to learn more, join us on Telegram and Twitter, and we'll be happy to chat.
Great. And for everyone, you can also follow Josh on Twitter at Josh Goodbody, and you can follow Qredo at Qredo Network on most of the platforms. But as Josh mentioned earlier, and as always, please follow crypto.com to stay informed about all of our upcoming events and announcements as well. And this AMA will be viewable here on YouTube after this. Thank you so much, Josh.
Thanks, Marina.
Thanks, everyone.